Alright, this is Chat UTD, reflecting on a good night at our one and only home, Old Trafford, last night. Superb 4-1 win against Sociedad means we go through to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. A night of energy, enthusiasm, vitality, good atmosphere, and I think the first chinks maybe that possibly this team is starting to grasp what Amorim wants from them and are putting it in place. Or maybe it was just a night where it clicked. But let's live in the moment and enjoy it, because we don't get many 4-1 wins. We were perhaps a bit fortunate, some erratic referee, and they were down to 10 men, but we took advantage of it, and there's other situations where we haven't done that. And some good individual performances. I thought Heaven again was outstanding. The lad, when he first came in, I was thinking I'd like to see him. I wonder if we'll see him at all, really. But injuries have forced the hand of the manager, and he puts him in from the start on a night that is really a season prolonging night. Because if we go out last night, that's it. Season's done. He puts him in, and again, composed, confident, calm, strong, assured, backs himself, aggressive when he needs to be. Just looks like he's been playing for Man United at the back for years. Quality. He'll have his ups and downs. He's a young lad, but very, very strong start to his United career, and at the moment looks a very, very shrewd signing, in fairness. So excellent again from him, and hopefully we'll continue to see him. I said it in a video a few weeks ago. When the team is struggling so much collectively, one thing fans will always get behind is watching a youngster grow and develop. There's a real satisfaction in that. Even if he came from another academy into us, he's a young player that we're watching, and he'll just keep developing, I hope anyway, because he's made a very, very good start at United. Xerxes, again, as I've said recently, the difference with him now is he looks like he thinks he belongs in a Manchester United shirt. He carries himself so differently, with so much more confidence. He still gives the ball away. He's still at times a little bit erratic with his decision making, but some of his footwork last night and some of his link play, his skill was just a pleasure to watch. The bit of the footwork before the cutback to Højlund, which didn't in the end lead to a goal, but was just wonderful. It gets you off your seat, and that's what you want to see. So when you compare that to what he was like in and around the Christmas period, and bear in mind, he missed the penalty against Fulham, which essentially, cost us our place in the FA Cup, but he's not let that put him off at all. It's not let him derail his progress. He looks very good, and I thought last night he had a very, very strong game. I've said it, the Europa League is where we need to be, really. That's the level. And you have nights like last night where you can go and enjoy watching them in European competition, because that's the level we're at, and that's the level probably Xerxes at. Good performance from him. Seems that Casemiro's having a little bit of a renaissance, which we need him to do, and that's great to see. Dorgu, I think we look such a more balanced and cohesive unit with him in the team. He's made a very strong start to his United career, like Heaven. Very good. So those two lads that came in January, it didn't look massively significant, particularly Heaven didn't. When they've played so far, they've both been a breath of fresh air, really. Højlund, I mentioned just briefly a second ago, but he didn't score last night, but he was much more involved. His body language was much more bright and positive. He was a lot more bullish in himself. And if he keeps doing what he did last night, goals will come. So much improved performance from him. And I've saved the best to last. The captain, the talisman, Bruno Fernandes, hat-trick, 2 penalties, and that third goal. What a finish. What a finish. I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks ago when Roy Keane unnecessarily went after Bruno, something chronic, on Stick to Football. Since then, scored the equalising goal against Fulham in the FA Cup, scored the penalty in the penalty shootout, scored the goal against Arsenal, and scored a hat-trick on, like I said, what was a season-prolonging night for Manchester United. The talismanic figure of the team. And I'm going to say something I was going to say a few weeks ago, and I stopped myself because I probably sometimes I'm a bit too bothered about what people might say or think. Top Reds could watch it, if they did watch it, and go, I can't believe he said that, what a load of nonsense. But I'm going to say it because it stands true to how I think as a Man United fan. So when I first started going to United in the late 80s, United, in the main, were a bang average team, and sometimes worse than that. The two exceptions were Mark Hughes and the captain, Brian Robson. And I watched Robson drag that team through games, particularly in the FA Cup, where I don't just mean by scoring goals, he scored loads of important goals, but he set the tone for the team. He demanded the best out of his team and at times almost single-handedly pulled United out of situations and took us through to the next round, and particularly as it got towards the latter stages of FA Cup runs in 83, in 85, in 90. He was always there, getting important goals, and as I say, setting the tone for the team. And if he wanted to, if he could have demanded a transfer and Europe's top brass would have been there waiting for him. He never did. Standard bearer for that team. Immense football player. Captain Marvel. My first hero, my first football hero. Now, Bruno Fernandes will never and should never be revered like Brian Robson. But he's our modern day equivalent because, again, he's in a bang average Manchester United team, sometimes worse. Scores goals, assists goals, creates chances, the most vocal player on the team, plays wherever the manager wants him to play. People call it ill-disciplined, but he's everywhere on the pitch. And does he drag the team by the boot, by the neck, by the scruff of the neck and take them through like Brian Robson did? Probably not in the same way. No. You're never going to recreate Brian Robson. But in an era of flakes, he's the closest we've got. And I often talk about United players not having the qualities to play for United, but also not having the physical, emotional, psychological and mental capacity to play for a team like Man United. Bruno Fernandes is the exception. Just taking the physical part of it, he is never injured. He's 30 years old. He's 31 in September. He plays with broken bones. He plays through injuries. He's available every single week. He will play through whatever pain barrier. He will play wherever you ask him to play. And as I say, he scores goals, he assists goals. He's the one player over the last 7 years where we've bought him and he does exactly what he's been bought to do. He's been bought in to score goals and assist goals. And that's exactly what he does. Bruno Fernandes, on his worst day, is 10 times better than Marcus Rashford in what he brings to our team. And I'm not somebody who particularly likes modern football players, I have to say. And I'm harsh on Man United's players. So I'm not had the wool pulled over my eyes by Bruno Fernandes. I watch him week in, week out. I see what he brings. I see what he doesn't bring. I see his strengths. I see his flaws. And I'm stunned at the levels of criticism that he gets. So I always, United come first for me. If you play well for Man United, then I'll be vocally supportive of you. If you don't, I'll be vocally critical of you. There's no agenda with me when I think about United players. But I was really pleased for him last night. I felt very, very kind of proud of him, really, because I always back him and he's my favourite player, and I thought last night was a good night for him, a hat-trick on a big, big night. And that is a night where he's dragged the team through and he's set the tone. So, delighted for him. Another one again that he got a new contract in the summer. Do you see him just stop running? No. Well, how many times have we seen that down the last few years? Player gets a new contract, stops. You're not going to get that from him. Genuinely honest professional. Good ambassador for the club. Talks with class whenever you listen to him. Gets United. Loves United. Just like Robson, even at 30, if he made himself available for transfer, you're not getting Everton and Aston Villa knocking on your door. You're getting the big boys. So I think we need to appreciate him more. And good on him for last night. So on we go into the quarterfinals. That's 3 defeats in 16, 6 games unbeaten, albeit we've only won 2 of those. Just these little runs, little chinks of light, which I'm going to come back to in a bit, that maybe we're moving in the right direction ever so slowly. Not wanting to burst the bubble, but onto some not so good news. Quenda, who we were heavily linked with, has gone to Chelsea. He's a right wing back from Sporting Lisbon. Ruben Amorim was the one that brought him through at a very young age. He's only 17 now, and he's been playing for about 18 months, I think. Exactly the profile of right wing back that that Amrin wanted. And listening to Fabrizio Romano, he said United couldn't do the deal quickly because of issues with FFP and PSR. And basically, in real speak, what that means is we haven't got any money to do what we need to do, which comes back to something I've said many times before. How does this Ineos and Glazer thing work when we are not able to get our targets because we haven't got any money? We've got a substandard squad. We can't even go for prime players who are the absolute best in their position. So what we have to do is go for the young players who are the best in their position. But I mean really young. This guy's 17. We can't even get him. So in the years gone by, he'd have been a plan C or D player. But now we're going to have to go plan to E, F, G, H. Like, where are we going? Our new plan A is our former plan D. But let's say he is our plan D. Who's the plan B going to be? Because, the pool of players we're choosing from is limited because we haven't got any money. And as I've said also before, when we want a player, there's numerous reasons now why they won't come. One, because we haven't got any money. And two, because he's probably looking at Chelsea and thinking, well, at least they're in Europe. United have got no guarantee of that. We're 14th in the league. We've had a terrible season. And he's got Amrim there who he knows. So you'd think it's an open goal and he's still chosen to go to Chelsea. So it's indicative of where we are as a club. And Jim Ratcliffe can talk a good game in a Gary Neville interview and say that everything's going to be all right. But I asked the question again, how is it going to be okay? Because this is our reality. Got to praise the recruitment team. It looks like they've done a sterling job with Heaven and Dorgu. And the players they brought in the summer have done okay. But it's difficult when you can't get your top target, and especially when that top target isn't even a top player. On Monday, I think it was, I did a video, a very raw and emotional response to the news that we're going to be in a new stadium. Old Trafford will be knocked down. It wasn't my most considered of videos, if I'm honest with you. I've kept it there and it's fine. I'm normally a lot more prepared. I'm normally a lot more, believe it or not, I am a lot more considered in videos than I was on that one. It was just get the camera, go. Unfiltered, as you could probably see. It's got quite a lot of views, which is great, and 2 comments appeared yesterday, and it's as if, I'm going to just mention the 2 people because I thought they were brilliant comments and were articulated really, really well. And it's as if there were 2 mates watching it together because there were two comments that really kind of encapsulated the same sort of thing. I wish I could say people's real names. It's dead funny reading out people's YouTube names. I wish I could say like it was Dave from Timperley and Barry from Altrincham or whatever. But so Mr. X and Truth Equation. Mr. X, and I'm going to paraphrase, and I hope it does it justice. You mentioned about the atmosphere at Old Trafford and how it used to make you feel when you went, and how again I'm paraphrasing, but how in awe everybody would be of it, and that fan culture really, and obviously what's happening now is so different to that, and it already is different, but it's going to be even more different in the future. Truth Equation, you mentioned football peaking in the early 90s. I completely agree with you, and I think maybe sometimes that's because I'm 45 and that was when I was a teenager watching it, and it was just like everything that went with it. Fantasy football, the telly was dead good around football. That black kit that we had, the green and gold kit, winning the double. 93-94 was my favourite season, but I always thought, well, it's just the age I was, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe you're a similar age to me, I don't know, but even with England, like the football's coming home and stuff like that, it was a special time. And you mentioned use the posh word, the 2 vestiges of Man United are the fans and the stadium. And when the stadium goes, the fans will go too. And you're right. And I'm going to just end the part of talking about what you said with what you ended on, which perfectly sums it up. You said it will be a new club. It won't be Manchester United, and you're right. People will go in that stadium and they'll watch football under a banner saying Manchester United, but it won't be Manchester United. You're exactly right. And interestingly, both of you referred to the stadium as a monstrosity, which I completely agree with. So the immediate future, as we've seen with the Quenda thing, is going to be very, very challenging. But at least in the immediate future, we're still playing at Old Trafford. And that's the way I have to think about it. We're going to be playing at Old Trafford, I think, for the next 10 years, because the club put out that it normally takes 10 years, but we're looking at 5 or 7 maximum. Well, if the Glazers are involved and you said it normally takes 10 years, it's going to take 10 years because those imbeciles will drag their heels on absolutely everything. It might even be longer. So I reckon we've got another 10 years at Old Trafford. And maybe if something changes, maybe some miracle could happen and it's saved and we always play there. But I can't let myself think that, because I let myself a while ago think that the Glazers were going to leave and they're clearly not. And I can't do that to myself. But we, at least in the here and now, in the immediate future, our home is Old Trafford. And as you saw last night, in all its glory, it's a wonderful, wonderful football stadium. And I know the inside of it is falling apart and whatever, in parts of it anyway. But that's the soul of Manchester United, and we get to play there in the immediate future. So that's what I'm sort of thinking about at the moment with that, and enjoying it while it's there, really, I suppose. Just looking ahead to the Leicester game, just dart back to what I was saying before. We've lost 3 in 16 games in all competitions. The league really doesn't matter that much, but what you could say is I don't think that we play again in the Europa League now for a few weeks. So you've got to look at these as tune-up games, really. And as the Europa League game, the next one against Lyon, gets nearer, then maybe you start to rest players and maybe you start to be more strategic about it. We don't want to risk injuries, and you played Thursday. You've got a game on Sunday. It's a relatively quick turnaround, but I think he'll rotate to some degree, but the key hitters will probably be playing, and with that in mind, you've got to go and try and win the game and build some momentum. And what I'd love, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that we've lost 3 in 16. Wouldn't it be great if in 4 games' time we could say we only lost 4 in 20 games? If you start adding numbers like that together, then you can start to say we're making some impact here, and it's listen, in the absence of us going for something in the league, that's something we can get hold of, like at least keep a good run going, at least keep momentum going. But the honest truth is it don't really matter that much, does it? And I think we'll beat Leicester because they're such a poor team. For me, the main reason my eyes lit up when I saw the time of the fixture was it's 6:30 on a Sunday evening. And I haven't got work on Monday, so I'm like, happy days. I'll have a few scoops and watch the Reds, and let's just see what happens. That's my thoughts on it. It'd be great if Højlund could bag a goal so we can stop talking about him not scoring. I'm sure again Bruno will play and maybe we see a bit more of Obi, Chido Obi. Individual players perhaps you haven't seen too much of. Let's see if they can get some time on the pitch. But it's not a particularly important game comparative to the ones we have in Europe. But let's see if we can keep that momentum going. Glazers out.